Two things happened this week that might not seem related, but I think they are. First, Canada had to back out of NATO's largest ever fighter jet exercise in Germany. 250 planes from the NATO countries are getting together in Germany to practice, as it were. But mostly it's a sign to the Russians that if they get too aggressive in Ukraine or they go into Poland, which is a NATO member, NATO's prepared to respond. We couldn't send any planes, though. Canada's always been a member of these exercises. I went to one 30 years ago in Cold Lake, Alberta. Very impressive. But this year we can't go because our jets are so old, they're now up on blocks, basically. DND said they're being modernized, which means they're being repaired because it's very hard to find parts for planes that old. And the other thing that happened this week was Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly admitted that Canada needs to increase its influence internationally. Now, you may remember when Trudeau was first elected in 2015, that after he was sworn in early November, his limo drove him up to the Pearson building up Sussex Drive from Rideau Hall, where he was sworn in, and he was feted like he was a Korean boy band member, and all the people at Global Affairs were teenage girls. They fawned over him. They cheered for him. They ringed him in the atrium of the building, and they were so thrilled that he wasn't Stephen Harper. It was one of the most disgusting examples I can think of supposedly objective bureaucrats showing their true biases. But Trudeau has been a disaster for us in foreign affairs. The world doesn't pay any attention to us, and Melanie Joly, who's the worst foreign affairs minister, global affairs minister that we have ever had, as much as admitted that when she said, we have to work really hard now to increase our influence. But one of the ways you have influence in the world is being able to defend your values. And that doesn't just mean going to UN climate conferences and tut-tutting about the rest of the world, telling the rest of the world how marvelous you are with your carbon taxes and your electric vehicle mandates. That's not how you gain influence. Preaching to the rest of the world usually turns them off. It doesn't make them your friend. Now, since Trudeau has been Prime Minister, that's almost 8 years now, we have been on exactly one peacekeeping mission. There was never a time under the Harper government when we had fewer peacekeepers in the world than we have had the entire 8 years of the Trudeau government. You don't increase your influence by not putting your people into difficult situations on behalf of the United Nations. You also don't gain any influence by not having your jets ready or your tanks ready or whatever else it is that we don't have, and we have a long list of dilapidated equipment for our military. If you can't have your military ready, even just for exercises, I'm not saying that we have to go in hot exercise or hot situations and start shooting, but if you can't even go to exercises, the rest of the world starts to take notice and your influence is diminished. But the other thing that has really hurt our influence internationally has been the Chinese meddling with the Liberal Party and Canada's democratic institutions. The Americans were among the first people to tip off CSIS and the Trudeau government to the fact that the Chinese were using agents in Canada and surrogates to try and influence the outcome of elections. So the Americans know how closely affiliated the Liberal Party is to the Beijing regime. And as a result, for instance, we were not asked to join AUKUS, the Australia-UK-US alliance that is going to try and curtail Chinese activity in the Pacific. We're not even invited. We didn't even know it was going to be formed until it was announced. They kept it secret from us because we can't be trusted. So if you can't be trusted not to turn over your secrets and the secrets of your allies to China, and you can't be trusted to have your military ready for exercises with NATO or with the United Nations peacekeeping, you're not going to have any influence in the world. And under Trudeau, Canada has completely failed on all of those. For Post Media, I'm Lorne Gunter.